Welcome to the Local Business Show. Seth Green is a nationally recognized marketer who is the nation's foremost authority on growing local businesses through direct response marketing podcasts, and the only person to be nominated 3 times for the GKIC Dan Kennedy Marketer of the Year Award. Seth will be joined by a capable cohort of co-hosts who are each local business marketing experts in their own right. On the podcast, Seth and his co-hosts brings together small business owners and other local business authorities to share with you their inspiring stories of how they started their local business, how they serve their local business clients, how they grow their local business, and how you can too. And now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris Richmond with Umbrella Local. I've got a fantastic guest here today with us. Andrew Learnerd is an entrepreneur and has worked in the agency business with marketing for many, many years. Andrew's got some great experience to share. So, Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and history?
Thanks, Chris. Sure. Hey, guys. Yeah, so I'm a marketer. I've been in digital marketing broadly for 11 years now. Ooh, where has the time gone? All right. So,
Indeed.
Yeah. So my kind of bread and butter nowadays is a media buyer and sort of strategist, right? I'm really strong in sort of Google PPC and analytics. That's kind of my sort of bread and butter. But I also have experience with Facebook, kind of user experience. I've done a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I even saw on your LinkedIn profile you have a Bing certification. So that's a rare certification for pay-per-click professionals. You know, Google's out there quite a bit, but you're also Bing certified.
Yes, sir.
How did you work through that certification? How did you find out about that and spend time on that?
That's a great question. Yeah. So as you correctly identified, Google obviously owns most of the sort of search volume that's out there, but you know, you kind of have those alternative engines like DuckDuckGo, KG, I believe it is, and as well as Bing, which do have some of the market share, right?
Yes.
And I did find sometimes with clients that we kind of max out, especially if you have really kind of niche products, you'd max out the kind of traffic that was available or profitable on Google, and they'd look to kind of other avenues to explore. And Bing obviously kind of parlays into that very well. Tends to be a little bit cheaper, right? Kind of commensurately with the sort of competition that's on there. So it was worth getting certified just to learn the platform and be fluent with it. We got to know our technologies to kind of to have that kind of offering as market.
Indeed. And Bing actually makes it very easy to transfer campaigns from Google right into Bing almost instantly. They've really perfected that technology. It makes it very easy to say, hey, client, I've worked so hard to build you a great campaign in Google. And you know what? I can get you even more cheaper through Bing. Yeah, I've got some clients in LA where because of the local market that they're in, the clicks are significantly cheaper for them in Bing. So always interested to see that. Good. So you said in marketing for 11 plus years. How did you get involved in that? Everyone has an interesting story about being a young salesman at heart. How did you get involved in the industry?
That's a great question. Yeah. So I graduated with an advanced diploma in marketing and communications management from Centennial College here in Toronto.
Right.
It was a great degree, but I actually started as a copywriter. I thought that I had like a kind of knack for sort of language and writing, and I was really interested in the way that sort of successful campaigns kind of position themselves, but as well, I kind of got interested in sort of direct response copywriting God. That's right. So I got an internship, as most do, you know what I mean? Because kind of when you're young and fresh, you really have a lot of value to add until you learn how to do it, right? Like I said, my first position, I was working at an agency called Isobar in downtown Toronto, and we were working on viral campaigns for Taco Bell on Facebook and Twitter. And this is before Facebook was truly what it was. Do you know what I mean? So it was really kind of interesting stuff. From there, my first actual paid job was working in a web design firm where I kind of got like a technical sort of kind of background, right? It wasn't my first choice, but I was young and I needed some money. And they're like, we can hire you as a writer, but do you know anything about websites? So kind of got that dualistic role, did that for a while, transitioned to the sort of client side. And that's where I did about 3 or 4 years of that. But that's where I kind of I found a knack for media buying and PPC. Because I'd read about it and people always talk about that as kind of like the top strategies that you should try if provided your client has a budget. But moreover, kind of being client side and seeing the sort of internal processes and the needs for developing lead gen systems, I really, really started to refine this and got a knack for it. Kind of technical background of understanding websites and sort of user experience and what sells, plus understanding language and how to kind of write for consumers, combined with media buying skills, this kind of like trifecta has now been my bread and butter. And then I got back into the agency side again from there and got to work on some really big clients. So I got to manage Bank of Montreal's sort of digital marketing, Lowe's, Rona, ADP, lots of cool big clients. And now I've broken out on my own and started trying to do my own consulting. So
fantastic. Good. Well, certainly you'll bring a lot of experience to the table and avoid a lot of those initial issues and problems that I think a lot of small brick and mortar type business owners might avoid. I know right. Google gives people $100 credit when you first start a new account because they assume that you're going to make mistakes and just blow through that budget. But obviously, moving beyond that, do you have an approach or an algorithm or a spreadsheet that you use to say, okay, this is the value of content marketing, and this is what it would cost to do content marketing, and this is where we can balance that with some paid ads? How do you have that conversation with a client about, let's get you some bang for your buck, but also make a good, solid, long-term investment? Is that the kind of approach that you would use with a new client?
That's a very interesting question. I guess everyone's got interesting sort of ways to do it, right? What I try to do at the start is harness anything that they have as a sort of source of truth that tells them what's going on.
Sure.
Client X comes to you and they're like, generally, they're going to kind of fall into two buckets, right? Like, I need to increase leads for my business, or I need to increase sales directly. And it's likely if they're in business, unless you're talking about it like an absolute fresh startup, they've tried some stuff in the past with varying degrees of success. Right?
Yeah, failed and wasted money left, right, and center, and they're burned. They're burned by it. So reassure them.
Yeah, and it can be difficult, right? Like the way I kind of look at it too is that no matter what you get for any kind of ad spend is you do get that data of what you tried. I try to use, again, like just what they have. If they don't have any sort of kind of cohesive analytics, well, we got to get them onto some kind of source of truth to just monitor what's going on. I do tend to lean heavily in the paid side versus kind of content marketing.
Sure.
I worked with specialists in the past, but it's just my sort of bread and butter and it has its sort of place, right? But from there, I'll try to get a grasp on what are you doing now and how can we identify sort of gaps in other efficiencies in the strategies and tactics that you're using for media buying, or maybe it's just easy to see that your creative is not resonating, or just maybe it just needs kind of refinement. Do you know what I mean? But I'll try to start with data, what they have, and kind of harness what they've used, and I would make recommendations to the contrary from there. Because again, every business has their own nuances and things that are going to work in terms of the media buying landscape. But I think kind of doubling down and focusing on what's going to work for each of the businesses is just what I try to do, because it's going to get them the biggest return right off the bat. And it's going to kind of make them want to go further and make the kind of relationship beneficial for both parties, right?
Right. So yes, using those statistics, understanding keywords, understanding the language used in the ads, trying to improve conversion, all leads together to, yes, helping the client in a great way and showing your value and why they should continue to work with you. What are some mistakes that people should have tried to avoid making with their pay-per-click accounts when they first start using them? Is there some suggestions or guidance you might be able to share there?
Definitely. I mean, I think there's a Warren Buffett quote I like where it's like, where you should never test the depth of a river with 2 feet. And as much as people do want to get ambitious, I've seen even just kind of going too heavy, too fast can lead to less than desirable result. Like ideally, you want to try small. And once you get those kind of wins, you're able to scale in a controlled and maximized kind of view, right? But if you're testing something out, you kind of got to balance this because you also don't want to kill things too early and you got to reach significance. So the key is just trying a strategy, even trying and seeing what your kind of competitors are doing, right? Because they're going to be making money off their tactics if you can analyze their search or social sort of profiles.
Right.
Starting small, kind of failing fast, and then scaling from there. Do you know what I mean? As well, just really dialing in stuff like, obviously there's a lot of little nuances of the Google Ads platform, like when you start off, right? Like you have the right location targeting settings. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is Google will set a default thing to people that are interested in your location.
Right.
Versus people that you're actually targeting. So say if you're targeting a really hyper kind of localized kind of product or service, right? Maybe you have a brick and mortar store, you can actually find that you'll have people that Google identifies are interested in your location. I'm interested in Coburg, Ontario, you know what I mean? But I'm actually in Germany. So people can get this kind of erroneous traffic and it's just like big waste, not a great confidence starter right off the hop. You know what I mean?
One thing that I find is often there's some confusion among different types of ad styles and types. So you must have to do obviously some education with a new client to say, yeah, these are the types of ads that we can produce. And then often people say, well, what about video ads? Video ads seems to be the new hot topic. I want video because they see video being produced by their competitors, or they see video on Instagram or on Facebook. And it can be as simple as you're just holding up a phone and doing a very personal face kind of approach. But often I find clients are very, I guess, brand and ego oriented, and they just want the impressions, the video impressions. They say, well, that helps my brand. Is that really a value for your brand just to have your face on these ads? Or would you argue that no, let's actually push someone towards conversion as opposed to just the metric for brand is an ego metric?
That is a great and deep question. I like that a lot. Yeah, obviously kind of varying and different opinions on the role of kind of video, or what we call kind of just upper or high funnel sort of tactic. Personally, for me, it depends kind of what that video creative is. So say if we hypothetically have this sort of thing, right? And you're like, hey, I'm blasting my face out to millions of people. Is that going to move the needle? It depends what you serve. It depends if there's kind of a elongated sort of sales cycle, or even just if you're using e-com, where it's just people shelling out their actual dollars opposed to just putting in their information in a form. Obviously a much harder sell, where that trust element needs to be bigger.
Yeah.
So I'd say I do see a lot of video. I know people actually crush it in video using kind of video funnels, but it's just using it appropriately, using your KPIs appropriately, trying to measure the impact of that, right? Like multi-channel funnel attribution to see, okay, how many people that have interacted with the video actually kind of walk down to a conversion through the path. Yeah, like I said, making sure the KPIs are targeted, and obviously the audience and the tactics that you're using. I know it's really hard to speak broadly because, like I said, it's really tailored to the individual client that you kind of want to use here. But
it is, yes.
Buying kind of third-party audiences generically and just pray and spray out to everybody, I would obviously probably not a great approach. But if you're using video tactically with first-party audiences that you're creating and even kind of have funnels mapped out to conversion, I think there's definitely very provable ROI that can be used. So it's like anything, it depends.
Yeah, essentially the advice I guess I would share is, start small, find your feet, get established with pay-per-click ads and paid funnels. Make sure you've got a funnel that is converting before looking at video. And then, okay, let's take just an experiment. Let's try just a small approach to this. Let's not spend a ton on production value and quality. Let's just see if it resonates and have that experiment and see, yes, as you say, if it moves the needle. So
absolutely, yeah, for sure.
It's something that people often want to leap into first without, learning how to swim before they're in the deep end. So good stuff. One last question, I guess, before we go is just what has your experience been working with third-party contractors and other marketers, collaborators? Is that something that you found has been successful in sort of learning in your career, in learning from others? Do you find that working with a third-party person, you're now going to be the third-party person coming in to help out? So I guess maybe this is a loaded question, but have you been able to learn working with third-party collaborators in the past? The agencies that you've worked with, have they brought in contractors that are specialized?
Absolutely. I think there's always merit in, so like I said, because my bread and butter is really highly localized to that paid search sort of level. I've learned a lot kind of just working in the whole aspect of the marketing funnel through people, specifically third-party contractors, usually identified people that are specialists in video or content, or even just SEO, which is kind of the cousin to sort of SEM, but it's very much not the same. But the thing is, they all play sort of integral parts to the full sort of mix. I've learned a lot, because I think there is even appropriate sort of kind of harmonization that can be done through SEO and SEM teams, but maybe you don't even necessarily want them to be thinking the same way, because it's just, they wouldn't think about the same things. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like SEO obviously is the golden hill too, because if you can generate kind of sales from organic, it's just amazing for the businesses. But the thing is, the work and investment must be done in a different way than you would do it to just buy the top page of position of search, right?
Well, Google has made it tougher and tougher with their search engine results to actually be an organic result in those in that listing. By the time you add paid ads, Google My Business listing, some actual targeted details, whether it's YouTube video clips or some of the actual detailed answers that show up, organic results are really being pushed down. They're, of course, Google is out there to make money, and they realize, if they can make people want to have paid ads, then they're going to make more money than us all fighting for the search engine scraps. But yes, it is a challenge. We've always got to fight against Google to try and get that positioning. But yes, there is a benefit to doing it and a value to doing it. It's just, be aware of where you are in that ecosystem.
Absolutely, for sure, right? Like, it really is kind of two wings of the same bird. I've even had to do kind of SEO during my time too. I mean, I have had great success with it, although, like I said, it's definitely not my kind of wheelhouse of proficiency, right? I think the value will always be in investing in specialists and experts. That value add is just the fact that they are so fluent with their channels and just so able to just navigate them in a way that you can kind of have a holistic strategy, right? And I think even good kind of specialists should be able to work with others for that kind of common goal, which is just delivering profit and good return for the client.
Indeed. No, and like you say, where your value is yes, experience, saving you money, getting you to profit faster. So fantastic. Well, thank you, Andrew, very much for your time today. You've shared some great insights. It's been wonderful. Again, definitely appreciate your time today. Thank you.
My pleasure.